Back with your news at Prime. The pursuit for gender equality is a shared goal for many nations, yet achieving it is far from universal. A comparative look at South Africa and Australia reveals that while the destination is the same, the journey is intensely local. Both nations have a stated commitment to gender equality, yet their starting line, obstacles and strategies differ dramatically. Let's reflect on this with research manager in the Faculty of Management Sciences at the University of Pretoria, Dr. Jessika Bohlmann. Dr. Bohlmann, good to have you and thank you very much for your time. It says 131 years is what it will take to achieve gender parity, defined as equal access. Why is it taking so long to close the gap?
Good evening, and well, thank you for having me, first of all. Yes, when you hear those kind of statistics and hearing that it will take us 131 years to achieve gender equality or parity, it's quite staggering. But it's just simply we're coming from different levels of gender inequality, if we want to call it, and countries differ, and priorities has been different across the countries and across the years.
Are we pursuing the right policies?
I think, I mean, we are on the right track, but we can say that we're being slow in the way we're doing it. And as our research shows, it's not only if we are pursuing, it's how we're pursuing it, and not one size fits all. Not all countries are coming from the same baseline. Not all countries are coming from the same level. So not all countries can apply the same policies, and that's what we've been seeing with our research.
So if we look at South Africa, for example, considering our histories, considering our economies, considering our institutions, where should we be focusing at this stage?
Yeah, so you mentioned all the key points. It's basically the socioeconomic background of South Africa. That's what determines the level where we are and the level where we should be going and the policies that we should be implementing. So I think one thing to highlight is that South Africa needs to produce and have an equity-based approach. And why equity-based approach? Because it has to be rooted in, we need to compensate for the injustices of the past, which our research shows is not necessarily the same point that Australia started. And maybe I should distinguish there between equality and equity. So equality, it means access, we give everyone access to the same rights. But equity is we want to reach equality, but to get there, we need to provide social justice by assisting basically the most disadvantaged members of society, those members that have been disadvantaged in the past.
Yeah. So are you saying there should be a doubling down on redress policies?
Absolutely. That's exactly what the gender parity policies in South Africa should focus. It should focus on this redress, the compensation after apartheid, after our racial injustices, and after our gender injustices.
So on analysis, then which areas should be areas of focus? I mean, a lot of the redress is really around social assistance, social justice, so to speak. But we have seen equity in employment being one area, questions of ownership being another area. I mean, we have delved into issues of equal pay. I don't know to what degree, but where should we be focusing more?
Well, I think one of the key things we need to focus is in our labor participation rates. It's one of the things we need to focus. And as we know, South Africa is a very special case. We have high unemployment levels, not only at female level, but youth unemployment, our general unemployment is very high. We have high income inequalities, but the female participation rate in the labor force is very low. And then we also have a cultural belief that was sort of not so shocking, but it was interesting when we were doing our lit review and all our readings and speaking to different people, how still the cultural influence that the perception of men are better than women in many of the labor positions, work positions, is still persistent in the South African society. Yeah. So it's a socioeconomic issue.
How does the intentionality in political leadership, for example, where you'd have the ANC saying we insist on 50-50 representation in terms of members of parliament. We insist on if you look at the formation of leadership in terms of MECs in particular provinces, it must be 50% male, 50% female. That kind of intentionality, how does it read? But also, we've seen some major shifts in corporate South Africa, where at the helm of the C-suites, you're getting a lot of female representation. So in leadership in that context.
Yes, I mean, we see progress, and we cannot deny that we do see the progress. There's more equality, there's more female participation, as you say, in parliament, in politics. At the corporate level, I think, is where we see a bit more women in leadership positions. But we still have issues like gender-based violence that remains sky high in the country. And as I said before, economic equality is still widening. So in a sense, this progress without protection or opportunity isn't real equality. So we need to do a balancing act in that sense.
Yeah. How's the question of unemployment affecting gender parity itself?
Well, I think the unemployment issue in South Africa, quite honestly, goes far beyond only female and male. It's affecting everyone. But going back to what I said before, is our labor participation rate. South Africa has amongst the lowest female labor participation rates, at least between medium income countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, you heard of the saying, packing for Perth. How do we compare? I mean, if we look at, of course, the country that we were talking about here, Australia, in this particular instance, when we look at their orientation towards the path of equality and how South Africa is approaching it, are they comparable? Are there lessons, I suppose, or key lessons that we can pick from what they're doing?
Yeah. So if we go a bit more technical, so if you look at gender, the global gender gap index, South Africa and Australia don't compare too badly, but it's obviously we're coming from different levels and we are targeting different things. So if I can take you back, South Africa is more an issue of it's a constitutional right. Is embedded in our constitution that we need to provide equal rights to women, equal access to education, to health, etc. Australia is sort of in a different level. It's more at the corporate level, in gender equality in the workforce, pay equality in the workforce. So we are similar but different in many ways.
For them, the support comes strongly from corporate governance structures and I suppose the economic stability at this particular point in time. Something that I suppose South Africa might be still battling with to get to a position of economic stability.
Exactly. So we're battling to get to economic stability. And as we said at the beginning of our chat, it's about South Africa comes from that point of compensation because of the past injustices, for that redress that South Africa still needs to take into consideration and address.
In summary, I mean, what does this comparison tell us in terms of what needs to be our key performance areas going forward in closing on this path, in closing the gap?
Yeah, so first we need to recognize that different societies need different tools, different economies, the socioeconomic aspects of each country differ. And then we need tailored and evidence-based policies that these are our best hope to close the gap in less than 131 years.
Doc, we appreciate your time and thank you very much for coming on. Dr. Jessika Bohlmann, researcher in the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences at University of Pretoria.